It is February 25th, 2026. The back channels have gone silent. The embassies are empty. Diplomacy is over. Tonight, the world isn't just talking about the possibility of a war between the United States and Iran. No, tonight, we are staring directly into the abyss of its absolute certainty.
Look, what I'm about to show you isn't speculation. It's not a guess. This is based on hard intelligence, on military assets moving into position, and on high-level political leaks that all point to one single, terrifying conclusion. A massive preemptive strike is not just possible, it's imminent. We've got confirmation of secret stealth fighters on Iran's doorstep, the biggest naval armada since 2003 sitting in the Arabian Sea, and a named war plan being briefed at the highest levels in Washington. And you're going to want to stay till the end because some shocking things I'm going to reveal in this explainer. Let's get back to the analysis. Let's break down the evidence.
All right, let's dive right into the cold, hard military facts on the ground. This isn't about posturing anymore. This is about putting the pieces on the board for a first strike. And the first piece of evidence, first reported by ABC News, is an absolute game changer.
A full squadron of F-22 Raptors, America's top air superiority fighter, has landed in Israel. But it's how they got there that tells you everything. They didn't just fly over. They flew dark, all the way from the UK. That means transponders off, total radio silence, refueled midair, all to avoid being seen. You only go to those extreme lengths for one reason: to place your most lethal assets into a war zone without tipping off the enemy until it's way, way too late.
So you have to understand what an F-22 times is. It's not the F-35, which is kind of a flying supercomputer, a quarterback that gathers data. No, the F-22 Raptor has one job and one job only: air dominance. It is built to be the very first plane in, the one that kicks down the door of the most advanced air defenses on Earth. We're talking about the Russian S-300 and S-400 systems that Iran uses to protect its nuclear sites. You don't send the door kicker unless you are absolutely planning to kick the door down. Now let's shift to the naval power, because this is where the scale just becomes overwhelming. The Times of Israel is reporting that defense officials are looking at the largest American naval buildup in the region since the Iraq War in 2003. We're talking about not one, but two full carrier strike groups on station: the USS Gerald R. Ford and the USS Abraham Lincoln. And just think about the sheer amount of firepower this represents. Between those two massive supercarriers, you've got a combined air wing of around 140 of the world's most advanced combat aircraft. F-A-18s, electronic warfare planes. I mean, it is literally an entire air force floating at sea, ready to launch at a moment's notice. But it's not even just about the planes. It's the escort fleet of cruisers and destroyers that brings the real long-range punch. We're talking about a combined arsenal of over 800 Tomahawk cruise missiles. These are the weapons you use in the opening salvo to completely cripple an enemy's ability to even fight back, long before any pilot is ever put in harm's way. The volume of firepower is just staggering.
So you see the hardware. You see an invasion-level force just without the ground troops. But that brings us to the most critical question of all. Why now? What's the final trigger that's about to unleash all of this military might? Well, the answer isn't on a battlefield. It's in a quiet negotiating room in Switzerland.
This right here is the trigger. The final emergency round of nuclear talks in Geneva is about to collapse. The US put down a non-negotiable demand. International inspectors get full, unfettered access to 3 secret sites where intelligence agencies believe Iran is weaponizing uranium. And Iran, with political backing from Russia and China, has delivered a hard no. According to Israeli sources, when the sun sets on these talks, that window for diplomacy is officially nailed shut for good. And we know Washington is ready to move because of an exceptionally rare event, a Gang of 8 briefing. Now, this isn't some normal update. This is the moment when the president legally notifies a handful of top congressional leaders that the nation is about to take a major covert or military action. When the Secretary of State and the Director of the CIA call this specific group into a secure facility, they're not there to discuss threats anymore. They're there to announce intent. And in that very grave briefing, a name was revealed. The operational name for the American war plan, Operation Midnight Hammer. You know, in the Pentagon, names mean something. They convey intent. Think Desert Storm. Think Iraqi freedom. Midnight Hammer doesn't sound like a small surgical strike, does it? It sounds exactly like what it is: a plan to use overwhelming force under the cover of darkness to completely smash an enemy's most prized assets. So if the president gives the execute order, what does Midnight Hammer actually look like? Based on the assets we've seen put in place, we can actually wargame the most likely sequence of events.
The first 48 hours would be a terrifying, coordinated symphony of violence, all designed to achieve very specific goals before the rest of the world can even react.
The entire opening attack can really be broken down into 3 distinct, absolutely critical phases. First, you have to achieve total air supremacy by blinding the enemy. Second, you use that control of the sky to go after the real prizes, the deeply buried nuclear targets. And third, and maybe the most terrifying part, you brace yourself to absorb the furious, inevitable counterattack.
Phase 1 starts in total silence. U.S. Cyber Command will launch attacks to paralyze Iranian command and control networks. At the exact same moment, those F-22 Raptors we talked about, along with hundreds of those sea-launched Tomahawks, will start hunting and destroying Iran's eyes and ears, their long-range radar stations, and their S-300 anti-aircraft missile batteries. You have to clear a safe corridor before the main strike force can ever get through.
And once that corridor is open, Phase 2 begins. This is the entire point of the operation. B-2 Spirit stealth bombers, flying a 30-hour round trip all the way from Missouri, will arrive over targets like the Fordo facility, which is literally built inside of a mountain. Their payload? The 30,000-pound Massive Ordnance Penetrator, or MOP. It's the only non-nuclear weapon on Earth designed to destroy targets buried under hundreds of feet of reinforced concrete. The goal here is simple: set the Iranian nuclear program back by a decade, all in one night. And then comes Phase 3, the retaliation. Iran will not take this punch lying down. They will immediately launch hundreds of ballistic missiles at U.S. bases all across the Gulf. In Qatar, the UAE, Bahrain, they will give their proxy, Hezbollah, the green light to rain thousands of rockets down on Israel. And they will execute their single most powerful threat, attempting to shut down the Strait of Hormuz, the choke point for nearly a fifth of the entire world's oil supply. And that, right there, is the moment this stops being a regional war and becomes an immediate, catastrophic global crisis. The economic fallout from an attack on Iran would be instantaneous, and it would be felt by every single person on this planet. The first and most devastating shock would be to the price of oil. Just look at this chart. This isn't a gradual increase we're talking about. If Iran manages to even partially close the Strait of Hormuz, analysts project that the price of crude oil could jump from around $90 a barrel today to over $250, literally overnight. It would be the single greatest energy price shock in modern history by far. So what does a number like that actually mean for you? It means the cost to fill up your car could double, maybe even triple in a matter of days. It means the bill to heat your home this winter could become completely unaffordable. This is how a distant conflict becomes a very personal, very painful financial crisis for billions of people almost instantly. And the world would be powerless to stop it, because as this breakdown shows, there is no unified global response. You've got Europe absolutely horrified, caught between a war in Ukraine and now one in the Middle East. You have America's Gulf allies, quietly helping the US, while being terrified they'll be the primary targets of retaliation. And most critically, the great powers are completely split. China needs Iranian oil and is warning of chaos, while Russia stands to profit from that exact chaos, likely feeding intelligence directly to Tehran. It's a recipe for global paralysis.
So let's bring all of this together. For decades, a direct military conflict with Iran was the one scenario every U.S. administration tried to avoid at all costs. The risks were always seen as too high, the potential fallout just too great. But today, all the evidence suggests that the fundamental calculation in Washington has changed.
When you look at all the facts, they all converge on one single, unavoidable conclusion. The secret F-22 deployment signals capability and readiness. The named war plan confirms intent. The Gang of Eight briefing was the political point of no return. And the collapse of the Geneva talks tomorrow? Well, that's the final trigger. Each piece of the puzzle locks the others into place. We are truly standing on the precipice of a conflict that will redefine the 21st century. The military assets are in their final positions. The political notifications have already been made. The diplomatic off-ramps are all closed. The only thing left now is the order. So the question we all have to ask ourselves tonight is, what does our world look like on Friday morning? This situation is developing by the hour, and we're going to continue to track every single update. For breaking analysis as this crisis unfolds, be sure to subscribe for the latest updates. And to really understand the critical choke point at the center of all this, watch our full explainer on the Strait of Hormuz, which should be appearing on your screen right now. Thanks for watching, and stay informed.